Good morning, you guys. Welcome back to the channel. Right now I am starting my morning here off in the storage. I actually did some errands before I came here, and the reason why I came here today is because I am here to collect this heat shield for Cat's header. So today we're going to be working on Cat's car again, and if you guys haven't seen the last video, be sure to check it out. We pulled the engine out, we prepped the engine bay a little bit, and pretty much got it ready for today's task, which is to swap the GSR in. Whatever else that I have for the car that's laying on the floor in my garage, we're going to install all of that as well too. Not 100% sure the car is going to turn on today, but at least get some progress done on the car. I'm also going to run through some key items that you're going to need to swap a B series in an EF, and it applies the same way to the hatch, sedan, the CRX, and the Wagon. I'm going to grab a few more things in the storage, and then I'm going to go grab some to eat, and we'll see you guys back in the garage. Alright guys, back here at the house. I had to go to Home Depot real quick because I had to get a water hose and the sprayer, because yesterday when I washed the engine bay, I was using a freaking bucket and a 7-Eleven big gulp cup to rinse. I also went and got some small little like totes for organization of bolts, because this is all bolts, this is all bolts, and that is all of bolts. So I got 5. One is for miscellaneous, 10, 12, 14, 17. Just have it in a smaller tote of its assorted sizes, so that way I don't keep carrying this giant heavy thing when I'm looking for bolts. Instead, they're already organized. So right now I'm going to install the harness. It's pretty straightforward, guys. I'm going to go ahead and just get this installed, because like I said, the goal today is to get this planted in the car, hung with all the motor mounts, T-bracket installed. So injectors, I'm just going to go ahead and loop it right here underneath. You know, this fuel rail has these little tabs for this plastic piece. Normally a lot of people don't run this, but the last person did, so makes it so much more convenient to hold that in place. All the injectors already going to their home locations. This right here is IAT, intake air temp. Probably gonna loop that right here between the runner. That clips on like that. Injectors just clips right on. These are OBD1s. I kept them OBD1. These are the same injectors that came off the single cam, and OBD1 doesn't require a resistor box, which you guys will see over here. The resistor box is eliminated. So typically when you run OBD0 or anything that needs a resistor box, there will be a resistor box at the end of this guy, but because OBD1, OBD2 doesn't require it, it has a block off. Down here we have outer air control valve. Right here we got TPS. You got the oil pressure sensor, which goes right here at the very back. We have thermostat ground, which is going to go right here. This isn't the color for the fan switch, but I'm sure the previous owner used this plug to run the fan switch on the thermostat. So this was originally plugged in same spot on the last engine. That goes there. This right here is distributor, which has the OBD1 conversion, plugs into the distributors there and there. This group of guys right here goes underneath. So we got engine coolant tank. I think this goes to the cluster, and then this guy is the ECT sensor, which also plugs up right there. Reverse light switch is different. This is OBD1, OBD2 style. This is OBD0, and the O2 sensor single wire for OBD0 is cut off, so we're not going to be using that because we're going OBD1. This guy got to find a plug for it so she can have reverse light, and these guys are going to be on the jumper harness, so we'll take care of that once we get inside the car. And then this guy goes to the tower for the 4 wires for the multi-point conversion. Obviously, before all of this, you need to do the multi-point conversion, which I'll link in the top right here. This goes on the driver's side tower, and then this guy right here goes to the starter. Map sensor plug on the OBD0 cars are integrated into the harness over here, so that's already chilling right there. OBD1 and OBD2 cars are typically on the harness, then you would plug it in. But that's pretty much it. Didn't have to really modify much. I'll get a 10 for this right now, and then we get to the swap mount parts. Alright guys, so let's get into the swap parts that you're going to need to plant B series in your EF. So you guys see me collect these parts out of, like, you know, mysterious holes in the garage. This right here is a 9093 Integra DA rear T bracket, or, you know, rear L bracket, or rear mount, rear bracket, whatever you want to call it. I've owned this piece right here for, like, I don't know, 10-12 years. This is the original piece from my EF sedan. It used to be polished at one point, and then I single stage blacked, painted it, and now I don't use it because of all-wheel drive. This is specifically needed for the EF, and even when you're using the hydro transmission, you still need this piece because the way the geometry is, you know, as far as mounting this to the mount that sits on the subframe goes, this makes the engine and mounts and everything line up accordingly. Now the only thing about this is that the DAs use a 17 mil bolt on the bottom to the transmission, and the hydraulic transmissions use 19. So this has already been hollowed out to accept a 19 mil, and I don't have any 19 mil bolts, but I'm gonna dig through my bin. If I can't find any, I'll make some. You can also distinguish this between the other T brackets because the DA ones are stepped and not equal length all the way across. So now let's get into the motor mounts. I just want to quickly say this video is not sponsored by Hasport. Before I open this package, I want to quickly say thank you to AD for reaching out and giving me a good deal on these motor mounts. Truly appreciate it, man. I know you watch the channel, so I'm giving you the shout out because shipping came quick even during this coronavirus BS. And now we got these motor mounts to get this motor planted in the car. He also mentioned that these motor mounts have, like, the new bulletproof inserts. As always, Hasport has all the hardware you need for your motor mount installation. Right here we have the Hasport actuator from cable to hydro transmission, which still utilizes the stock clutch cable. I ran these on all my cars, currently have this on my all-wheel drive, and I've had no issues with it. And who doesn't like the bling bling billet? You know what I'm saying? Oh, gray, eh? Gray. This is the rear mount that sits on the subframe, only held by 2 bolts. And wow, this looks cool. This one right here, this is the driver's side, and in part of this you need the 9093 DA post mount, because this right here with the DA post mount is going to align the engine correctly in the engine bay. If you use like a different 2 post mount from a 94 plus or a 3 post mount, it's not going to work. Whew. That's sick. They have the Hasport logo right on the top. The older ones doesn't have this, but this, guys, is a hydraulic transmission mount. The bolt holes are different pattern from the cable transmission, so when you buy your Hasport motor mounts, be sure to read the part in the description to clarify which transmission you are using to get yourself the right kit. So transmission mounts, awesome. And this guy, I believe, is the arm that goes with the cable to hydro actuator, which goes here. This pulls on the fork. The cable pulls in this guy to, you know, engage and disengage the fork to the clutch. And I'm sure the bolt's in here somewhere. Maybe. Yep, right there. Allen headed. Awesome. I appreciate AD for getting this out to us ASAP. And he was so quick at it that he forgot one bracket, which he sent in a separate package, which is not really a big deal because we definitely still have this in time to do the swap. and this guy is the bracket that sits on top of the transmission, which holds the clutch cable before the lever. Oh yeah. EF do use a specific shift linkage for the B series. Now, back in the days, we used to cut and weld shift linkage, and because the other one hasn't gotten in yet, we have this shifter right here that Jesus dropped off. I believe it's a cut and weld right there, and it worked perfectly fine in the other car before he upgraded to the gold Hasbro shift linkage, and that's what she has for this car, but we don't have it. I don't have to install that to get the car to turn on, but if we don't get one in time, I'll just slap it in there for the time being. And also the axles are specific, at least for the driver's side. The axles is pretty much based off of which half shaft or intermediate shaft you are using. There are the DA 9093, and then there are the 94 plus DC. Passenger side is the same, so that's not a big issue, but depending on your intermediate shaft, you have to get the correct one. So because this car came out of an EG, which typically people use the 94 plus, which has the male intermediate shaft, that means your driver's side has to have the female end that pretty much goes in here. Now, if it's a DA one, which I don't have one lying around, the DA one actually is a female end, and then the axle for the driver's side is a male end. So be sure when you buy your axles, make sure you know what intermediate shaft you have before you do that, so you don't go and waste time running around trying to find the right thing. So now that we've covered that, big shout out again to AD Hasbro. We stay rocking with it, and I'm gonna go ahead and get everything ready to get this in here. So this little package right here, these bolts are for the actuator to the transmission that goes here. These two guys right here goes for this bracket, and then this little Allen headed one right here goes to this guy that attaches here. So this is the back motor mount that sits on the subframe that has these two guys with the washer. This one right here is the transmission. Typically the tranny has 2 studs and a bolt, and then this is the 1 bolt. This is the 2 nut and washers for the studs, and then the driver's side motor mount also typically has 1 stud, as you can see right there. And then we have a bolt for that guy, and then we also have this guy to go through this hole, which then goes down to this guy right there. So T-bracket, I gotta find the bolts for these guys, but aside from this, I think we're ready to go. The original D series mounts sits on the passenger bolt holes right here, and then there's another set on the driver's side. So this one right here is the one you're going to be using for the B series motor mounts, which is only 2 bolts. And I'm gonna go ahead and just thread this back one in here real quick. You got this bolt right here in the front. It's very important that if you have a really nice valve cover, don't put it on the engine if you're installing the engine this way. This is a spare valve cover. Doesn't matter if it gets damaged. And also, I don't have the motor mounts on here just to ease of aligning the engine. And once it gets close to looking like it's gonna line up, then we put the motor mounts on. Better if you do this with 2 people, but I'm by myself today, and I do what I can. Now for me, before aligning the engine in place, I want to make sure I get the T-bracket put back there before pushing the engine back, so it's not a fight when we try to install it when the motor mounts are in place. Transmission mount. This one. Ooh, we are a little bit off. This one I typically keep the nut on the bottom because that's how stock is. Bolt from the top, washer, nut on the bottom. So the reason why I left that loose is so we can shimmy the motor around until we get this motor mount bolt in place. Looks like it's off about 1/4 of an inch. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of push the engine over. And there it is, guys. GSR installed in the Civic Wagon with half-sport motor mounts for hydraulic transmission. I think pretty much all I'm going to do the rest of this video is just install, reconnect everything that I have, axle, shift linkage, and we'll wrap it up then. I also forgot to mention that for the EF guys, you have to bang the frame rail right here to clear the alternator pulley. And apparently this car had already been smushed in because it had a B16 before. People normally try to get away with using a shorter belt to pull the alternator forward without having to modify your frame rail, but this car was already done, so that is one less step for me. Beefy as hell. You gonna go Daniels or not? Daniels? I'm probably gonna go finish this. So the thing about putting B series in EFs, when you use the DA axles or DC axles or B series axles in general, you have to knock off this dust boot, because this will cause a bind to not allow the wheel, bearing, hub, whatever to spin. You can see it's been off before and somebody put it back on. So take it off on both sides, install your axles, suspension, and that'll be pretty much it for the wheel well. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock that out real quick. So we got Kat here, we got Joe, we got Tyga himself, and my cousin's over there as well too. But we're getting ready to leave in just a minute, and I just want to give you guys a quick little update on everything. Everything that I've done as far as the last clip went. So we got both axles, suspension, everything installed. Right now we're keeping it stock until the engine is all good and dandy, and then we'll start working on the suspension stuff. So cross member, fan, radiator, hoses, everything here is connected, everything there is connected. Kat and Joe just dropped off the valve cover, the oil, miscellaneous items, spark plugs, and all that good jazz for tomorrow's festivity. But I think we're gonna wrap it up today. So Kat and Joe is gonna get on out of here. I mean, she's pretty stoked, it seems like. The car is definitely coming together. I didn't give you guys a little teaser on the Type R valve cover. They just tossed in here a minute ago. This is gonna be like the icing on the cake. I'm not even gonna show you guys that because Joe cleaned it and it is really, really bright. But today's video is pretty much just, you know, the Hasport motor mount and engine installation. Everything else that I had attaching for the engine is installed. Tomorrow is going to be the button-up video where I'm going to button up everything from the engine bay underneath the car to the inside of the car, and hopefully we'll get our first startup. Also, a quick reminder, guys, we do have some new merchandises up on the website. I'm sure they're live now, Daniel? Yeah. They are live now, so be sure to go to builttodrive.bigcartel.com. Link is always in the description below. Cop yourself some merch, support the channel, support your boys and gal. Can't forget that. And if you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. And if you guys want to stick around for the first start and probably first drive, be sure to hit the subscribe button. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.